ŵohest over that salt stræte, to that Äudu's efese ŵoest, that it cometh to þære Œastriht ditch, and adun over that ecge, that it cymþ to cymez hylle, of cymez hylle, that it cymþ to spon hæfdan, and ŵohest that it cometh to þære bradan of þære bradan that it cymþ to þære Łohgan apeldran, þanon norðrihte that it cometh to þære haran apeldran to broce, after broce that it cymþ to gemyþan. This is part 2 of my examination of the Dark Age landmarks of Hauling, ďarlinga in Old English. Because the two charters of this parish don't conform to modern parish boundaries, these two charters are therefore difficult to solve. There's no basic pattern to fall back on. You can't use Occam's razor to say that it is most likely to conform to traditional boundaries. But there are landmarks we can fall back on. One charter talks of woods, the Äudu, the other the fields, the feld. And we can see that the northern part of the district is quite heavily wooded. The district today is quite heavily wooded, and the south not. There are also historical facts we can fall back on, that it was recorded historically that Hauling was once divided into two. I would argue more than once, and those didn't quite make it into the historical record. But the historical recorded division became the new estate of ṟoll, and the remainder staying Hauling. Ṟoll means the well, the spring of the ṟohdeer. Incidentally, if you see a place name with the word well on the end, it is almost entirely always referring to a spring, not a bored hole in the ground. Because I blundered into an interesting reference in the Äudu charter, it is that charter I will concentrate on. The blundering into involved a spon well, and that is found beyond an edge in the Äudu charter. Now, spon comes out as spoon today, the modern word spoon. It also has an Old Norse cognate of span, and in Old English it meant splinters, little chips of wood. I mention the Old Norse because it's convenient as a cognate, because it means sort of wooden slates. And that's probably what you do find quite a few spoonleys, which were probably woods to make tiles, to make wooden tiles, shingles. And we have not just a spoonley wood today, we have a Roman villa in it, and that's pretty exciting, something that us antiquarians should certainly keep our eye on. And it certainly piqued my interest that an Anglo-Saxon charter might refer very closely to a Roman villa. Now, these two landmarks are over the boundary today, but it is very likely that they refer to those locations that Hauling once included Sudeley Manor, which Spoonley Wood is now a part of. But on its own, it's not good enough. We need more supporting evidence. The charter, as I said, it mentions that it is beyond an edge, and this is the edge of a very deep valley, one that was quite exhausted to climb out of. And that deep valley has an edge, and the Old English, the Anglo-Saxon, is quite clear what an edge is that point where you're walking level and then it suddenly drops away, and there you have it. It is also, before that, there's a charter entry called Œastriht ditch, and as a good antiquarian, or a bad antiquarian depending on your viewpoint, I mentally associated with an Iron Age fort, possibly Bronze Age enclosure, which is down here on the hill, and that's quite convenient. Now, the English Place Name Society places it in Severnhampton, on the hill to the south of the Äille fort. But it's still very close. If either of them are correct, then it helps us mark out where we're going. Now, after Spoonley, it actually says spon Äille, and what that would have come out today as Spoonwell, which would have been a spring and a river. And there are two springs very close and rivers that, in fact, the Roman villa is in the crook of the junction where two gushing springs are. One of those is Spoonwell, and now well is not the same as Lee. Lee means either wood or rough pasture. But it's the spon part that is important. They are quite rare. They are all over the country, but they're quite rare to find Spoonley woods. Now, after Spoonley it says go to the broad oak, the broad arc, and we have oak cottages here. And then it goes around a couple of turns, and then goes to broce, and we have the brook that goes down the valley, the one which I named last time incorrectly, then corrected myself. This is one of the joys. By the way, what you're watching and whenever you watch one of my videos, you are watching me. I do some research beforehand. I try and correct it as I'm out there in the open, which I did, but I also, which I do. But I also do more research as I edit to check that I'm getting it right. And in that case, I was wrong. But what you are watching is me discovering things, using my wits and using research. And you are watching it pretty much live. These are not carefully crafted theses that are going to be put in the scientific record. This is a vlog. This is a log of how I go about in the countryside. So this river is part of the Saxon Charter of hauling, and it says along broca, the brook. So it's not a particularly interesting Saxon name, so I think we'll stick with bees more, don't you? But it also talks of going to the gemyþan, which means the mouth, like the mouth of a river. And this is where it meets the other river down at Äille. And there is the border of the boundary of Sudley goes very close to it. But it's also why we know that hauling stretched this far, another mile or so that way, because it goes to the mouth, and then it goes to the northmost portway. And it's the portway, and now we're coming onto the roads. This is the other real reason why I'm here, is I come back, I'm returning to the saltway, the stræte. And whenever we hear the word stræte in Old English, we know that the Anglo-Saxons thought that was a Roman road. It also means in the 800s they were using that Roman road to transport salt, which is a commodity, and it's not something you can't grow salt on not everybody can grow salt on their estate. Nobody grows salt. It's just little communities do that, and they're manufacturing for sale to the market. So it's a it's the Anglo-Saxon economy up to this point, which was a break with the Romans, was one of just doing enough to keep yourself alive and to pay the king. And you could prosper, but it wouldn't be on the scale you would have done if you'd had access to an open market and to trade. But there are some things that were traded, salt being, this is evidence. There are some things that were being traded, and that's salt, because you couldn't have it, you couldn't get it on your own farm. You had to you know, you had to buy from a merchant. The portway and the saltway, I don't think they could possibly be the same thing. He could be saying, the surveyor of the charter could be saying the northernmost part of the saltway is the portway, but the saltway continues off and a road goes left down to Äuohgan, and that's the port, the market town or the city, and it's the way to the port. So we've got two names of roads here, which is good fun. So the Dham broces is our Bibeles more, which I talked about last time. Now it then says go to the gemyþ, and that is either a river going into the sea or a river going into another river. So that proves that we must go all the way down the river up to Äuohgan and then take a turn there. And then it says go eastriht there. Now there's a couple of other there are landmarks in between and after these places that I can't identify, but I do get to identify key landmarks. So we have the North Mestan port way, which is definitely the road going down to Äuohgan from the top of the edge, the ridge, and on the ridge is the saltway. That's another identifier. It doesn't point out the saltway. It does cross the saltway here, but it doesn't mention it. But earlier on, it does mention it when it first crosses the saltway down towards jourdan ditch, and that's another way of cross-referencing where this boundary goes, because we know where the saltway is, and this is it. Now it then crosses there and goes down to Chram. That's not recorded today either, and I spent quite a long time umming and ahhing which valley it was in. I'm pretty sure it's this one here. This, or the other stream 50 yards away, on the other side, we're in a fork of where two streams meet. It's called in the Saxon Charter Spon Wellen. It gave its name to Spoonley Villa, a stone of which is just to my left. It is 5 yards that way, Spoonley Villa. And it has a copy of a Roman mosaic in it, so you can come into this wood and see it for yourself. It's great fun. This is the second time I've been here. And now the Romans probably didn't name it Spoonley Villa. It was the English that called the early English that called the spring next to it the Spoon Well. And but it's that layering of information helps us to connect more fully with the English landscape. Come and have a look at the villa. It's really enjoyable. Like I say, I've been here before. I've done a video in lockdown of it. I'm going to do it again. I've come back because I found out more information because of the hauling charter. So this is a mosaic that was in the bathhouse, I believe, but it's a copy. It's a 19th century copy, and or it might be earlier 20th century. Obviously, they took it away for safekeeping, and because once it's been unearthed, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Somebody would nick it. So they, it's not like not ÄuileT, not like ÄuileT, which is there's a hotel, loads of people watching it, so it can't get nicked. But here we're out in the middle of the woods. But it is, you can definitely tell it's a copy because it's been machine tooled each tessera. That's modern cutting. The Romans used clippers. They've used an angle grinder, or the Victorian equivalent. I don't know, a lathe or whatever. Circular saw, a mill. But it's worth coming to have a look at it anyway, because you are looking at a very close imitation. Those walls have been put back as well. They were lying on the ground, and the excavators put them back to show what it would have looked like, which I think is rather nice as well. There is no evidence that there's continuity with the name Spoonley and whatever the name the Romans gave for their villa. But it is worth bearing in mind the place Speen in Berkshire. And there, that was a Roman station, a Roman town called Speenis. Stop sniggering at the back there, please. And the English came along and called it Span. Now, nobody's saying the English had... Speenis means thorn, places where there are thorns. And that's not what the English heard when they came. They heard a sound that was similar to their word spon. And that's what they called it. It was appropriate to the landscape. It was wooded. But there is some continuity there. They heard a sound not in their language, and they replaced the place name with a very similar sound, and that created a kind of continuity. They didn't think of thorns whenever they said speen. They thought of shingles, wood chips, which is what the word means to them in English. But nonetheless, that continuity is there. That sound is so similar between speen and speenis. You can't by any means think that there wasn't some sense of continuity there. Was there continuity here? Well, we don't know. There is no recorded Roman name for this place, but perhaps there may be something similar going on. Who knows? But it's worth thinking about.